What is it we do when we work, rest, play? These things that take up so much of our lives. But what if there's a different question? Not about what we are doing, but rather, what are we looking for when we work, rest, play? Are we hoping that what we do, how we relax, or the hobbies we choose will somehow bring us the identity, purpose, and meaning we've been searching for? Are the true religions of our time work, rest, play?
Well, good morning. Wow, work, rest, and play. When David announced this series, my brain went to, which one do I tend to do more of? Oh, it's so challenging, isn't it? We think about our lives and we think about our last week or the last couple of weeks or the new rhythm that we find ourselves in or the just season of life that we find ourselves in. And we think about the energy it takes to do all of them. In fact, to rest takes a lot of energy. To play takes a lot of energy. And to work, sometimes that's the easy one because we do it so well. Isaiah says this in the text today. It says, learn to do good. Seek justice. Rescue the oppressed. Defend the orphan. And plead for the widow. When we read that text, it's a reminder to us that there's some work involved. Key words: learn, seek, rescue, defend, and plead. And plead. All of these words speak to me about the word process. We have a responsibility when we read the text to see how we're going to land that. And the process is to learn about justice and mission and what that looks like in the routine of our life. And today I want us to see how it lands for us, the idea of work and rest and play. We talked a couple weeks ago, and it's interesting that sometimes we like to live in what I call the Ziploc world. I don't know about you, but I'm not sure how we have lived without Ziploc bags. They're the greatest invention in the world, and especially now they have the super size. You can actually use them as suitcases now. It's incredible. We have the snack, we have the sandwich, we have all these multiple sizes, but that's kind of how we like our life. Tomorrow I'm getting ready for work, but today is about my day of rest, and Thursday is this, and we have these compartmentalized lives, but that's not how it works. And part of today, what you were witnessing on the stage, which stirred me to emotions, my kids would have loved to witness that. They like to stare at me when I cry. I don't know what that's all about. But you're watching what happens when a soul is transitioned in their own life, reaching into a moment for someone else's life. There's this moment where suddenly the gospel, work, rest, play, suddenly the gospel has tied it together. And there's a moment happening right in front of you. So many great stories highlighted globally and locally. Westsiders, I want to say this about each one of you. You are such a unique crowd of people. I love worship. But before I worship on a Sunday, I look at the shoes. Partially because I'm in the front row. This is the only church that goes from monk strap shoes to work boots on the stage. And that's you. Your stories every week amaze me. Got a guy, an older West Sider, he's been a little struggling with church attendance lately, and he's been busy with life, and I went after him. This week we went to Starbucks, and I went with my go-to line. What's going on? Never asked that. He said I needed to get away. I just needed to get away. I had to process my thoughts. So I took a little trip. I said, where'd you go? I was thinking Airdrie, Clare's home. There's great places in Alberta to get away. He said, India. Okay, now I knew it was going to go off scale right there. I knew that wasn't going to work for me. India. I said, that's like, why? He said, well, I've been doing a bit of yoga. Boy, I'm already checking out of this conversation. We're just thinking about the coffee now. He said, I just did the cheapest somehow holiday to be able to reset my life and to stretch and to be quiet, to meditate, to focus. I just thought, wow. Then I was thinking about missions, thinking about this weekend. I was thinking of myself not being the best of travelers. I don't have, like my dad did, and many of you have the built-in GPS, so I get lost a lot in movie theaters. You laugh, but they're big. Sometimes I have to go back and remember what door I came in and reset myself to get to where I need to go. In India, I was thinking, that's too far for me. When it comes to missions, God, you can't call me to India. That's way out there for me. Language barrier. That's a tough one. Food. I'm back in, I could be persuaded. I'd fly far for Vindaloo. Beach, a little bit of appeal. Yoga, hard no. Just a hard no. Meditation. There's a problem with that with me. I think there's a fair bit of silence when it comes to meditation. Probably another no. You see, for me, when I think about missional injustice, I see all of the complications just like you. It's not going to fit. It might not work. I don't know how I could be the person to do it. But often God works outside of our own comfort to push us into something we never dreamed we would do. And that's what happens. When we look at the story of Esther, the Old Testament tells us of a lady called Esther. She was exiled and a prisoner, and she found herself forcibly married to the king who had captured her country, her people. She had been captured. In the midst of this, she uncovers a plot, and the plot would show that there was an extermination to happen to her people. But doing anything would risk her own life. And I want you to see this part of the text today that her cousin sent her in a note saying, "And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this." For all of us, we have basic skills where we know what it's like. We can step across to a neighbor in need, or we can serve into our city. We can even travel distances. But God has a unique way of using everyday people with everyday skills. And he just puts this little stretch on us to take us a little further as we're ready to move forward. And he does it as he gets us out of our comfort zone to accomplish his will in others and his will in us. Esther was caught up in what we would call crazy circumstances, but God used it for this special, significant time that he had planned. Now, I want to uncover this little nugget for you, and maybe you are not like me, so it's always good to identify that right away. Do you find that you and God are always in sync with every time he asks you to do something? I thought it would get quiet. I feel like there's moments that I am engaged with what God wants to do, and then there's moments that he is engaged with what he wants me to do, and rarely do they always happen at the same moment. I was reading something this week, and it was quite challenging. It was against pastors. It was talking about scheduling and apps. I like technology. I'm not good at it, but I sure like it. And the writer said, are you spending too much time managing and not enough time making? He talked about the challenge of our lists. Oh, I love lists. I love lists. I make them all the time. And I love the thrill, the adrenaline of wiping a task out. Oh, it's as good as an overtime goal. But sometimes we are so constricted in our ability of management that we miss what God's doing. That was the gist of the article. For such a time as this, you see, as pastors, we are challenged to be people of faith as well. We are challenged to move forward into the things that we're asking. And what can we learn from this amazing story? What fascinates me when I think about justice and mission, I think of how that works together, is how God intersects our life and our story to change other people. Sometimes it's just doing what is right, justice, doing the right thing at the right moment because something has happened. And for years in church world, we struggled with this because we were so disconnected from our neighborhoods and so tied to the local church. We had a hard time making connection to those we lived across the street. But now, it's never been so easy. The sad part is we live in a broken world, but the broken world is looking for us to connect and be a part of it, and we can walk across the street. My fear is this, before we review the story of Esther. My fear is that please never assume that this key fob that you see at the table represents the success of a person's life and the fact that they wouldn't need help. Please, as I shared with my son this week, don't look at the picture of the beautiful house and just assume that they're not needing something of the message of the gospel. And yet it's easy to measure it. They've got to be doing well. Look at what they're driving. They've got to be doing well. Look at where they live. That's the neighborhood of the full-size chocolate bar. You're guilty, all of you. You know where they are. I've passed you at Halloween as we drive around looking for the full-size bars. But everyone's in need. Sure, they might have some parts of life figured out, but everyone is in need. What do we learn about Esther's story? We learn this: timing is everything. Timing is everything. Think of that phrase, such a time as this. So often we make the work of God so complex. I'm going to fast, and then I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to discern, and then I'm going to do a program, and once I get the program, then I'm going to move in to what God is speaking to me to do. Nothing wrong with any of those steps. But I like the part of the text that says this: who knows? It's another way of saying maybe. Maybe God has put me here to do justice and be the person that can fit the need now. All of these stories that you're going to hear today in the middle space, all the stuff when you have conversations with every single person that is on one side of the table or standing represent on the other side of the table, every one of those people have been transformed in a moment in such a time as this, where they got caught up. And now, look at what they're doing. Where might God have you? Your community, your city? What does it look like? If you read the story of Esther, you will see there are particular things that we learn from her life. When is the right time? We practice it. Step out and then evaluate. When you leave, going, wow, that was a cool moment. That was something that took place that I wasn't counting on. It wasn't in my agenda of the day. And we sit back at night and say, you know, it felt good. I can do that. I did it. I stepped in. I went on a short trip. I went on a medium trip, and now I'm doing something even beyond. Now, when it comes to applying this to work, play, rest, work is a unique situation. Because let me start with this. Please do your job well. We've all met the evangelist at work that would rather do the work of the Lord than do the work of the work. Don't look anywhere. They're not here today. Man, I worked with one of those people. Oh, it drove me to pray. Wrong spot. But when we are hard, and I know Westsiders, you're hard workers, when we're working hard and doing our job, there's something about moments of justice that happen at work. People of like-mindedness driving in the same direction. There's something awesome about the times that we get to share and do justice, mission work at work. Work is a large part of our lives. And often you know this because you'll go to a funeral and someone will be speaking on behalf of the person that's gone because they're a colleague. They've worked together for years, or they're at the service because there's so many colleagues from work. They've shared a large part of life. Work is a large part of what we do. But it's also such an amazing opportunity for justice because people share. You learn together. You're wrestling together. You're project managing together. You're having successes together. You're having challenges together. And then suddenly there's a moment that you can step in the area of justice. I had my life all figured out at 19 years old when it comes to the work of the Lord, because I was off to Bible college. God is gracious, supplied for me a great job working for Kellogg's. I cooked your cornflakes. Now, I know you don't eat them anymore because you're on the low carb. God bless you. Thanks for eating them many years ago to supply my opportunity to do ministry. When I was writing the message, working through, I was thinking of the love I have for pastoring people and the joy that it still brings me and the storylines that go with that. And I tracked down my very first pastoral moment. Wow. I was 19. Carol Gordon was her name, and she was to train me on the cookers. A lot of complication there. Dangerous job, stepping into an area at 19 that I didn't know. And she wasn't the friendliest chip, if I could say it that way. She was a bit of a matter of fact. You don't do this, you do this, and you don't do this. And I asked a question, she said, not time for questions. You do this, you don't do that, you do this. I realized we weren't going to be overly close. And then I started asking around, well, that's just Carol. So I did it really well. I was the first person she had actually trained, and here I was. And then it wasn't long after that she was a little quieter than normal, and the word had got out that her son had passed with a tragic heart condition. Well, you know, when I get to Bible college, I'll be able to come back and share the love of the Lord for her once I'm equipped and settled into this. But I wasn't smart enough to do it that way. I had to get into her life. What can I do? How do you talk to someone at 19 that's lost a child? Didn't have any experience. So I just befriended her, got in a little closer. Did some dirty work. I got my mom to make a nice pie for the team. Boy, apple pie and a little bit of ice cream can do a lot of work at a coffee table. But we started to walk through moments together, and I just was dumb enough to get into her life a little bit more, and I offered prayer, I offered support, and I offered humor as the months went on. You see, it was Carol Gordon and a moment at work that said, this is how you do it. You take the risk, you step in, and we sang the song this morning. Great words. Lead me to love to those around me. Sometimes we want to preach first. Sometimes we want to have the right word. But start with love, and it'll just go in the right direction. Humor. Pie. A question. How are you doing? Working hard with her as her Kellogg cornflake protege, because it counted. And I remember saying goodbye, and the hug I got from a cold, quiet, tough, awesome Carol Gordon. Because at work, these are the moments that happen. God's timing is everything. Secondly, we learn from the story of Esther is this: the more the merrier. Today's about partnership. Esther realizes that she can't do everything by herself. She needs help. She needs advice. She needs support from God. Serving God in justice requires an element of humility. We got to be humble. Oftentimes we get into these moments, but let me tell you the best part about a team. Now, some of you have just completely checked out. You're going to say to me, let me tell you the best part about a team. There isn't one. But there is. You're going to find out you're not that big of a deal. Isn't it great to be on a team when you are the big deal? And then a draft happens. Something changes in the locker room. And now, where did this person come from? You see, in team, we learn that we have a skill, but someone else has skills. And together we share that around. And suddenly we can see the gift of each other and what it looks like. There's something about team and others and support and reliance on other skill sets that you may not bring. This is the best part about our mission partners. I'll tell you what I love about this church, and there's a lot I love about this church, but I love the way we do missions. We've worked hard at getting it in line and straight and process, but I love the integrity, and I want to say this clear. The vetting that our missions leaders have done before me, during me as leader, and that will continue on long after is the success of our missionaries. I can guarantee you that every person back there has been grilled, chilled, and fill in the word of your choice there. They have just done everything because you can't get by Stefan, Chantel, Adam. They vet. There's other great people that do missions work. There is other great missions that we are not involved in yet. And there's others that we will not be involved in because the vetting didn't work enough. I love that about a church because you know that there's not a wasted nickel when it comes to our missions program. Because we do it with partners. We rely on partners. We go and we're a part of it. The safety, I've sent a daughter twice. Man, the safety of how we do it is significant because of our partners. I love what Tim Keller says. He says it this way. He calls the idea of working together common grace, that we should appeal to common values and work alongside our neighbors in an effort to improve justice within our society. My friend Tim Day out of Toronto is working on a software program. It's amazing. We went to see what he's doing. He's in 32 cities. And part of what he's doing is helping church stop doing one-offs and work together with your strengths. Stop fighting, stop arguing, stop trying to outcompete the other person, and for the sake of the gospel, get on page together. Wow, how's that for a big task? You see, our friendships matter. This activity of friendship matters. Also, it ties into the word play, because when we play together with those who we love, when we work together is one thing, but when we play together, that's an extra piece of time, of a skill set that you have, and when you do it, it speaks of closer friendship. And there it is, our Westside King Church hockey team. You want to see a mixed bag of talent. Do you know that Andre had this idea? He can put a team together. I don't know how he did it. Some of you felt sorry for him, so you signed up. We have board members on this team. We have missions people on this team. We have children's leaders on this team. And we almost have a trophy. So close. But like I said, humility, isn't it a beautiful, beautiful thing? They went all the way to their championships. It was great to watch them and to see them play together. You see, that's what happens when we do team, even if it's in the sport of hockey. There's something about the idea of being together and working together and having fun together. And I said to Andre afterwards, listen, you already succeeded because everyone got to play, everyone got to participate. And you have built relationships throughout the church because of it. Listen, as I like to say in our house, play dates. I get in trouble for it all the time. Apparently you don't use that word when your kids go above the age of 8. But I love saying to the teenagers, are you having a play date? Dad, it's not a play date. I just love it. Play dates count. Every Sunday, I love it when you introduce me to your friends. Bobby, I want you to meet my friend. Bobby, I want you to meet my friend. This is the idea. But listen, take play date to a whole new level. In fact, here's a gutsy move today, and you could do it. Sign up to a trip and sign up a friend. Don't even tell them, say, hey, we're going on a trip. And they'll get their golf clubs ready and say, where are we going? We're doing India. And we're going to meditate and change the whole entire world. There's something about pulling your friendship, stretching them together. I know that's how it happens because you're here today because one of your friends invited you. This relational pull is an incredible part of our journey. Play and playing together opens up a personal door of how you walk together for greater things to be discussed. Golf courses, locker rooms, dirt bike trails, running through the mountains, praying for your friend to catch up while the bear is chasing him. changes everything for us. Hey, we learned from Esther that the more, the merrier. And lastly is this, being provoked by the gospel. Esther's story reminds us of this provoking part of the gospel message. Let me ask you this week, and you're going to love this. This could probably be the best message ever, because we're going to talk about it. What ticks you off? Some of you have come today, you're still mad. What is it that just bugs you? I've got a great list. In fact, I had so much on my list this week. I'm tired of people that butt in. I don't know what my kids call it budge, I call it butt. I'm tired of people that butt in line. I'm generous. I let people in all the time. But when you cut me off to get in line, that's a different agenda. I don't get a blessing out of that. I want to be the nice guy. Come on, why don't you go right through? But someone that just cuts you in a line. You're so much better Jesus followers than I am. How about loud talkers at a coffee shop? Have you been there to have your quiet time, your moment, your devotions, and somebody is so loud, they're just assuming that you want to be a part of their conversation. And now they're watching YouTube videos. I might as well go home. This is my home. Why would I be here? Do you not get ticked off at anything? I'm going to hit something on your list. What about those that back up in parking lots completely blindfolded? Oh, there it is. You have a car that is made of Nerf material. Obviously, because there's no need to check. The bottom line is, okay, last I just got to say it, people that get into Marvel movies too intense. Now, I know it's too early, too soon. I was at a movie with my family, and the lady is sobbing and jumping and shouting. I almost had a stroke. I'm thinking, what am I going to do with her? So I took her popcorn, gave her a Kleenex, and let her cry on. No, I'm just kidding. When I went through my lists of things that provoked me, I was surprised that I'm not getting provoked enough by some of the way Esther and the gospel would push. You see, we need to be provoked about the right things. Parts of the message of the gospel. Justice, mission, it drives us to ask a question. Why is this going on? When you saw the people on stage, the wrestle is, why is this not being solved? And the reason they're there, the reason that they're doing what they're doing today is because we want to see a change happen. We want to see it solved. We want to be a part of the process of changing and making a difference because something has provoked them. You know, the gospel will always be provocative. The gospel will always be provocative. It will challenge the way we think. It'll challenge who we are. And it will make us ask uncomfortable questions all the time. It's what I love about David's teaching. I love that it's presented great. I love his humor. I listen to him twice every Sunday. I listen to him 3 times because often he practices on me upstairs. But I'll tell you, I don't leave a Sunday where I'm mad or I'm upset or he's hit something that's bothered me or he's found somebody in the Bible I didn't know existed or a text that I haven't read. This is what the gospel message does for us. Faith pushes us into justice. Faith provokes us to think differently. Now, lastly, and we're done. This is the part of rest. I've learned something incredible when it thinks about this, when we look about this part of being provoked. You see, some of the reason why we can't get provoked about the gospel is because we don't stop long enough to let it sit. It's an hour and a bit on a Sunday morning, and then boom, we're out the door, and you're all into rest today, and you're all into getting your groceries ready for this week. And then Monday start, and it's just like the Kentucky Derby. The gate goes down, and the race is on. I rested on my last holiday, and I was shocked at how my mind engaged things that I had not thought about for a long time. I was shocked. You see, there's something about rest that when we do it, God connects in with us. The volume of our kids, the volume of our jobs, the volume of our phones, the volume of the way we operate. Hard for God to get loud enough into our lives, but when we rest, when we have a Sabbath, when we pause, we listen. and we are provoked. And it's in the provoking that we say, I want to be a part of this. I want to do this. I want to participate. I would say it to you this way. He is always speaking to your heart, but the noise of life is hard because it's so loud. What do we need? The prophet Amos said it this way. Do you know what I want? God spoke. I want justice, oceans of it. I want fairness, rivers of it. That's what I want. That is all I want. The world needs oceans of justice. Life can be overwhelming. It can be difficult. Temptation, diversions. But justice can change the life, not only you participating, but those who you're reaching out to. Maybe you do need to go on a mission trip. Maybe you need to invest into a missional organizations. Maybe you need a part of just using your finances to make a difference somewhere. Maybe you need to do something with your skills and your creativity. Lastly, look at what Luke says. Speaking about scriptures that really bug you. When you give a luncheon or a dinner, do not invite your friends. Okay, I'll get through it. Do not invite your friends, your brothers, or your relatives. Now, some of you like the relatives part, but let's keep going. Or your rich neighbors. I'm all about the rich neighbors. They bring really good food. Who knows what else they bring? But if you do, they may invite you back, and then you will be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind. Invite your neighbor who doesn't get invited. Invite your neighbor because he's alone. She's by herself, going through a struggle. You see, Jesus does it great. He just takes a simple illustration and he twists it to say, do something that matters, to make an option of justice. Justice has never been easier to find in our world, but it's never been harder to do. Step away from your fears. Step away from wondering if you have the answers. Don't worry if you're not a good enough cook. It doesn't matter. What matters is showing the love to those nearest to us in the moment that God sets aside. Fight your fear, doubt your doubts, and move forward. There's something about the way we can work, we can rest, and we can play. But we can let the gospel intersect every area of it. Let's pray. Jesus, what a great group. They know this message. It's just a reminder that in all three of these areas that are all important, that we all love, we can't compartmentalize. And somehow, God, I pray that this week we would have a window, that we would just sense your conviction in such a beautiful way when we're taking a break to grab a coffee for someone we're working with, and when we get back and after the second sip, they share a story of challenge or of need. And we'll know this is our time. This is the time that you've set for us. And God, I pray for our friends. I pray for those that we play with, those that we love to be around socially. God, a sense of new conviction, that we would care bigger, deeper, that we would push together. God, rest is the hardest part of this message. Man, we don't do it well. It's always difficult. Our brains never shut off. The world barely allows it. But God, as we rest, we will be provoked by the things that you are speaking to us. We thank you for how great you are and how you love us, and we lived with this idea of common grace. So let us have that as we move forward. Thank you for this awesome day you've given us in your amazing name. Amen.